My name is Yannick Gaultier. I'm from France. I'm here to talk today about search engines and SEO and what's happening. Here are the sponsors of the event. I'm not one of them, but let's. So here there are the people who can make this event happen, and please use their extensions, their services. My own company is called webroprec.com, and I have been involved with Joomla since about 2005, and I've been doing extensions, mostly in the field of SEO. I had an extension that has been running for 15 years called SH447, which was all about SEO. And since roughly the pandemic, I have completely renewed all these extensions, and I'm running a series which are now for AI, for SEO, for SEF, for podcasts, video, and for logs, and now just recently for command. All of them have in common that they are focused on SEO or content, which is, basically one and the same, essentially. But today, I'm not going to talk about any of my extensions, and I'm not going to talk about detailed SEO, maybe what you're expecting, like which settings should I set and how should I set them in Joomla to do good SEO, because of course that does not exist, but that's usual SEO talk. But today I want to talk about, this is the summary of my talk, HCU and AIO. So does anyone know, is it familiar to anybody here? Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah, we in the world of SEO, we like acronyms. So there'll be a bunch of acronyms, but these two is exactly what has been changing over essentially the last 2 years. And the days of the old traditional SEO, they are really, we are in the middle of it, but it's really changing now. For about 15 years, we've all heard that SEO is always changing and we must adapt to SEO. But in fact, and I've seen that with my extensions, SH447 and for SEO, it was not really changing. Like a few details, whether meta description was important or title was important and how long they could be, but essentially it was about the same. But there are two things that are changing now and that has been changing recently. It's the willingness, or maybe a fight that's happening between search engines and spam, SEO spam, essentially. That is getting crap results for good queries. You get crap results, very bad results. So there's a big fight happening there at the time. And something that's, I'm not sure, this is, yeah, well, you don't see that. And then the apparition, of course, of what's called generative AI. That's whatever is powering ChatGPT and Gemini and the other solutions that are doing that. So these two things are happening at the same time, and I want to go through that very quickly. So the first battle that's happening is the fight between search engine, and mostly Google, and low quality content, spam content. And so the famous HCU, that's an acronym that means helpful content updates. And over, let's say, the last 5 or 6 years, Google is still working and it's still a search engine and it works. But many people have complained that the results of Google that you get from Google have been decreasing in quality. You get poorer results. It's not an established fact, but there have been actual academic studies to try and find out whether Google results were actually getting worse, and some findings show that. And some of the reasons is that SEO techniques have been improving or have been studied so that spammers can get into the results, and it's really hard to fight this. And Google has been, and this has been made, of course, by the appearance of ChatGPT, because it's getting easier and easier to produce vast amounts of content that looks good somewhat, but it's actually spam. And so for the last 2 years, really, Google, it's mostly Google I'm talking about here, has been putting out what they call updates to their algorithms, which are either changes to the way they work or systems that run for a limited period of time and sort of clean up the index and clean up their data so that they get less spam and issues. So this is a screenshot from For SEO, and it shows you these little Google icons that you see. This is a period of from January last year, so it's roughly a year and a half leading up until today. And these lines here are where Google published information about an update they have made to their algorithm, or times where they have run for a few days or a few weeks, they have run something, a special system to clean up their results. And that culminated, so yeah, I have a list here, but the most famous one is helpful content update. And that means they are trying to favor content that's helpful. It's just by the name. And the idea is that they want to fight things that have been only written to get traffic from search engines. Content that's not meant to help actual people, but just to get traffic. And they have a variation of that. I'm going to unplug that thing. So, they have variation of that for products, dedicated to products, cleaning up products, reviews. Obviously, reviews are a big source of spam, and general spam updates. And each of these is dedicated to one of them, of these topics, except the helpful content update has been running several times. And this culminated in March this year. And probably you haven't heard of that, but it was a big fuzz, because in March they had they had two updates running, one helpful content update and one spam update. And the helpful, and they also said that the helpful content update have now been integrated into their algorithm, meaning it will run permanently and always. And the result was that a large number of websites, especially big websites, very large number, like hundreds of thousands of them, have essentially disappeared from the results. And because that was not enough, they also applied tens of thousands of what they call manual penalties. And manual penalties is when the Google system says, I'm not sure, that site doesn't look good. I'm not sure. So somebody from Google, an actual person, looks at it and say, yeah, it's bad, it's spam. And when they press a button, I think, and they press a button and the site is gone. You're not in the index anymore. You completely disappear. And it's not impossible to get back, but it's really like several months of hard work and communicating with Google to get that manual penalty lifted. And if that happens to you, you'll know, because you'll be gone from the index, you'll be gone from the search results. And in the search console, you'll see a line that says, "Oop, you've been given a manual penalty and your history." You can as well restart a new website, because it's really going to be terrible. Anyways, the point is that there are massive changes in the way they rank things. They rank websites. And one of the things that happened during that March 2024 update, and I think that's of interest to you, is that one way they thought they could fight spam is by favoring brands, big brands. And also the idea being that they can, if content is generated by actual people, probably it's better than content that's generated by AI or other things. So they add that super smart idea that maybe if they get content from Reddit or Quora or Stack Overflow being good, but Reddit or Quora, it's written by people, so it's good. So they have, in that March 24 update, they favored a lot of content by big brands, forums like Reddit and forums like Quora, which of course are now filling up with crap, and it's worse than it was before. But the point is that if you're a small company with a small website, it's way harder to rank for your usual keywords and queries and the way people work. So it's again, it's evolving. That March 24, 2024 update is completed after a month. So we are just after that, and they are getting feedback, of course, pissed people, but it's really changing. I just wanted to mention also, in May, they enabled a new policy about site reputation abuse, which is something that enables parasite SEO. But that probably does not concern you so much. It's when big sites, I don't know, like Forbes is famous for that. You may have seen many results from Forbes in the results when you're searching for cars or clothes or anything like that. And that's when a big site like Forbes or whatever, they sell the usage of a subdomain of their website to somebody else who does coupons for whatever you want to sell. So they are fighting that, but I don't expect many people here running sites with millions of pages and such. So the end result is that the end result of that March update is that websites like this is a typical example because I've been making a bit of noise about it. House Fresh is an American website, and they are a small company, like family company, and they are like a blog, and they test air freshener. So if you're in the US, probably elsewhere as well, you may buy air freshener that purify the air and so on. And because it's a big thing, they have a website that just tests them, and they are like the real people testing in their house, you know, like a wife and husband, and they are doing that. And it was a big website. And at the end of March, they essentially disappear from the results. They were like page 25, and instead you got for the queries where they were successful and like page 1 and number ones. You have pages from Reddit, and you have pages from big websites like the one from New York Times, Wirecutter, things like that. In other words, people who are doing big websites who are doing reviews without actually testing things and with just content made for SEO. So they are very pissed about that. But the end result is that they are essentially gone for the result. They had to fire. They were employing 2 or 3 people. They had to fire them, and they made a big fuss about that. So that's the danger. That's where we are now for smaller companies. The dark side of it, what I call the dark side, is that obviously the low quality content is still there, and some pretend it's on purpose. Because from Google's standpoint, if the quality of the result is lower, then you spend more time searching. Maybe you have to search once, see the results, not good. You have to search a second time, it's not good. And each time they can show you ads. So it's all good for them. It's all better. So there's a rumor, we don't know exactly, but then. And there's an antitrust trial going on in the US against Google, which is under the threat of being split in two, the people running the search and the people running the ads, because of that sort of thing. But that's, we don't know. So that's the fight against spam, which is not working well in my opinion yet.
Does this only apply to the Google search engine or also the Bing and the others?
Okay, so what I'm saying here is from Google, generally speaking. Bing doesn't care that much. First, because they are smaller, so few people use them, and if they do something good or bad, it impacts much less people. So they do fight against spam a lot, but then if they succeed, it doesn't impact that many people.
No, but it could be a reason for people who know this to move away from Google and go for others.
Sure, but you don't really move away from Google. Like for instance, you know that Bing Microsoft has been a partner of OpenAI, and they have integrated search exactly what we are going to talk about now. They have integrated AI-generated content in their results, but in the end, that hasn't helped. Essentially, Bing is still has about the same market share a year and a half later. They still have about the same market share, so it doesn't really have an impact. And what brings traffic to your websites is still Google. So, and all these helpful content updates, the fight for against spam and so on, that's Google, really. That's Google. But I'm sure Bing does something also. We just don't worry too much about what it does, really. So and the one thing I might mention about that is that if you try to optimize and do SEO for Google or for Bing, essentially you're going to do the same thing as you would be doing for Google. It's about the same thing. The basic principle are the same. There's no real big difference between the two. So the second thing that's changing, and that's even more worrying, but it's just starting, so you probably haven't seen that yourself here. It's the inclusion of AI-generated output in the search results. This is what's happening, starts to happen. Again, it's not happening now. I'll go into the details later, but the way the search engines work, and Google in particular, but here we are talking about both Google and Bing, hasn't changed much. You enter a query, they try to understand it, and they search within all the documents or the web pages they know about. They try to surface the best one, the one that best respond to your query, and they show you a list. Well, they show you a bunch of ads, and then they show you a list of possible response to that. So that hasn't changed much over the last 15 years, and that hasn't changed at all. The only exception is rich snippets, if you know what I'm talking about. It's when you have links in response, but on the side you may have, like if you ask, what's the age of Elon Musk, then you probably will have something that says links, but the age is whatever age is his. And that's the only thing. And the problem with that, with the rich snippets that already gives you an answer, is that nobody is going to click on your website which has the age of Elon Musk on. And that's a problem because you want people to come to your site. So rich snippets were already a problem in that they directly provide the answer to a question, and therefore they send less people to your website. So that's been going on for 10 years or so. So it's not, I mean, we live with it. Now they have they have the ability to generate fuller answer, and that's changing things. Google is just starting because they are bigger and many eyes are looking at them, so they must be more careful. Bing has been doing that for a while. So this is, for those of you who don't open Bing on a regular basis, this is how it looks. You ask, no, I don't see anything here. Highlighter. So, no, sorry. This. So, you ask a question, you got your typical results. This is more like a rich snippet where they show you an excerpt of a website, and you got results here. They also have like people also ask, that's also question posée, that's like people also ask. But then on the side, they generate a fuller answer. This is the principle of AI generated thing. And you can see almost immediately that if the question is the age of Elon Musk, then it's not going to be a big problem. But if you have a more complex question and they provide here a full answer, then actually nobody is going to go to your website. So Google is just started with that. In May 2023, this is the first or second acronym that I mentioned. They started with SGE. That was search generated something, I don't know. And it worked like that. You had a query, and they had here a full screen wide, full width area answer here with links to some websites, which was better than Bing at the time. It was an experiment. It was only for English requests, only in the USA, only in Chrome, and you had to be logged into your Google account. So you probably haven't seen that. Now, since somewhere in April, they have started a new version, which is called AIO. This is the one you're going to hear about soon. AIO, it's AI overviews. It's still only in the US for now. It's still only for English queries, and it's more often in Chrome, but you don't have to be logged in, so it happens. You can see that if you use a VPN, you can get some of these, and they show that usually for more complex queries. So if you ask for the age of Marc Dechèvre, which is probably somewhere in Google, right? I don't know. You still have a rich snippet, but if you ask about something more complex, I think I have, I'll show you some example. They'll probably generate a full answer. I just mentioned here that the news types of content seems to be excluded from that because it needs to be fresh and really, really recent. So this is how it looks. You have about the same thing. You've got your query here. I asked about why do we see northern lights and where they come from and how often do you see them. So it's a more complex query. And typically, if you have a website with some on that topic, astronomy, whatever, atmospheric effects, you probably want somebody to come to your site. But here what they are doing is that they are generating a full answer here. And then below you got the more traditional results. So this is, I made several screenshots. So you can see below that there is also people also ask, and you've got the links. So the links are still there. Now, if we look at the, if I open up the AI generated answer, you have you have the answer. You know, it's a full answer, something they could find maybe on your site. But you do have links here. You do have links to 2 or 3 websites with relevant answer, and they say this is where we took the answer from. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We don't really know. I have plenty of. So I'm sorry, I have plenty of things to say, so I'm going quite fast. I hope I can finish in time, but we'll see. And so this is a zoom on the carousel of the links. So you can see there are 2 or 3 things. The one thing that happens that takes people off guard a little bit is that, and that's, I mean, you do your website, for instance, if you are you want to promote Joomla, or you want your BMW and you want to promote the BMW cars, there's something that happens a lot with these kind of answers, is that when you ask a question, they reply, the AI-generated answer replies to the question, but it also says more. Like in this example, which is quite famous, if you ask how good are BMW cars, the system will answer in Google, they are very good, they are reliable. Oh, but they also cost a lot, and maintenance is high, and the cost of tires is very bad, and that sort of thing. So it's very tricky, and marketers kind of, you know, they don't really know what to do with that. And of course, because it's AI and it hallucinates, there are already a collection of things it said that probably it should not have said. Like this one is probably the most famous. Like somebody asked, you know, in my pizza, the cheese is not sticking to the pizza. What should I do? And it answered, yeah, put glue in it. That's that sort of thing. Or it can say things like how much this particular set of headphones weight, and this headphones weighs $349. Or this one, how many insects are in Tropicana orange juice? And it happily replied that on average there are 2 insects per serving of Tropicana, you know, juice. So if you are running a big brand, it's kind of an issue. But I think this will be sorted out. Anyway. This is brand new. This is just for the last couple of months, but people have already tried to measure how big an effect it has. And the answer, we don't have much data, of course, and it varies a bit with the type of website and the type of research. But typically, these AI-generated answers will appear from anywhere from 10% to 30% of the queries. So it's not always there. It's only when they think the query justifies a fully detailed answer generated from AI. Again, it's not always the same thing. Like there's one recent study that in the domain of health, like how do I fix, or where do migraine came from? How do I fix this particular health problem? They found that 42% of the time there was an actual AI-generated query, and that's one thing. But for us, we are concerned with SEO. I'm gonna skip over that because it's more details about what sort of words can trigger an AI. But that's where we have contradicting information. You remember there's an AI-generated answer, and there are links, the one we are interested in, because they might lead back to our website. And depending on the topic, these links, they are either from websites that rank number 1, 2, and 3, which you would kind of expect, or there are links going to pages, to websites that don't rank normally. They are not at all in the first results of the traditional search results. So that's very odd. But generally speaking, there is, like for this one was more generic, it found that there's a strong correlation, near to 1.9, between sites showing up in the top 10 results and sites shown in the AI-generated answer. Okay, so there's that correlation. Yeah, so your links, maybe the website, the link to your website are still shown, but do you get clicks? Do people actually click? So this particular study, again, it's just one, found that if your website is mentioned in the AI-generated results, then you get less click, about 9% less clicks than before there was this AI-generated response. But if your site is not mentioned in the carousel of links, then you do lose clicks, but much less, only 3%. So one way or the other, you're going to lose clicks, it seems, except when you don't, because there is a number of cases where you actually get more clicks. Typically, because this is an area which we have more data, because people are more interested in the domain of e-commerce. If you're selling stuff with your website, if your site is mentioned in the links, you're going to get more clicks than if you're not mentioned in the AI generated answers. And probably very simply, because the reason is simple and logical, is that they put only 2 or 3 links in front of the people in a big box like that. So that's probably where if people are going to click, they're going to click on these 3, and they're not going to scroll all the way down to find other pages. So you're going to get, in that case, yeah, okay. So it's a more complex. Table to look at, especially if it's really small. But depending on the kind of query she found, that's Aleida Solis, a very well-known SEO specialist, between 1 and 9% more clicks for the people who were mentioned in the AIO search results. And she also found that there was a correlation between the websites who were ranking well in traditional results and appearing in the AI answers. So a summary of that, impact on your traffic, it's really early. It's not even in Europe. We don't know how it's going to work out here. It's still an experiment. The impact varies a lot depending on the sector. Sometimes you get less click, but you might also expect more clicks if you are displayed. So that's very important. There may be more clicks, but they will likely go to less websites. So the competition is going to be probably becoming even more harder. And there's a small difference here in e-commerce that products are directly shown. I discussed that with Nicolas. So if you're into e-commerce, the links that are shown in this carousel in the AI answers, they are never links to a category page or something like that. They are almost always directly to a product page, directly to the shoe you're selling or whatever you're selling. So that's a little bit different from traditional search results. And of course, the question, either you're sleeping now or what do we do? And again, yeah, maybe I'm too cautious, but there's really not much data to confirm. On average, or typically, you could think that when it's generalized, because it will be generalized, there's no doubt about that, to all languages and to all regions. So the first thing we see is that these AI-generated answers are for very generic and more complex queries, meaning it's only maybe 10 to 20% of the queries, and which means the traditional results, traditional SEO is still good for 80% of queries. So that's one thing. Now, okay, maybe I didn't give you the conclusion, but the conclusion is that SEO will still be exactly as important as before. Maybe not the same SEO, but SEO is exactly as important as before because first, the AI-generated answers are only for 20% at most of the queries, meaning 80% is still traditional SEO. And even for these results here, the AI-generated, there's a correlation. We've seen that likely the websites that are mentioned in the links are still are about the same as the one who are number 1, number 2, like in the top 10. So still, it's SEO because Google and Bing, they work the same way. They are still search engines. They are still doing a search, but the AI-generated answer is a generated answer based on the result of the search. So you still have to do SEO. Sorry about that. Now, what SEO? That's a more complex question. And I have gathered here a few things that you should maybe obsess about. It's content quality, number 1. It's been clearer in the last few years especially the last 2 years, that Google especially relies less and less each day on links. So because links are a big source of spam. Because before, if you had many links from big sites and even not so big sites, it will help you rank a lot, meaning you could buy links, you could do many things to get links, and they would not be able to identify that properly, and they would rank sites that are low quality. So they have reduced the importance of links dramatically, and they focus on the actual content of your pages. So you should focus on the content quality. Now, of course, what does that mean? We don't really know. I'm sure you all focus on the quality of your content every day, so that doesn't help much. One way that I've been putting it, Google mostly, is that what information does your content bring to the world? So if you're writing excellent content, very well written by human and everything, but it's in the end, it's about the same as what there's like 1,000 websites with about the same information brought to the world. You are unlikely to make it to the top of the search results. So all of this is not about having H1, H2, a good meta description, or using main keywords and so on. The thing you need to focus on from now on, and you probably did, is bringing content that's not everywhere, bringing content that brings value, brings information to your visitors, and they can't really find elsewhere. I put it this way: whether you use AI or not for that, it does not really matter. There's a danger when you use AI, it's that AI tends to create really generic content. And because everybody is using AI, then if I ask AI to generate an article or something, and somebody else, my competition, is doing the same thing, you're probably going to end up with about the same content. So it's not about using AI to write, but it's about the end result. And the other thing that's really important is that you need to have probably more content. One way some specialists put it is cover more ground. So if you sell shoes, maybe you need now to start writing about things that are around the area of selling shoes and the shoes themselves, because that's going to help you establish as a kind of a reference something essentially, again, that's not available elsewhere. There's a strong focus on the overall website quality or authority, something that has existed, but it's becoming public now. We know a bit more about it. So it's not just your pages, but it's the entire website that matters. And if you have content that's not found anywhere else, then that helps. I'm not going technical here. I don't want to do that. But in terms of things you should obsess about, again, it's not about H1, H2 or meta description. Good, simple HTML, few JavaScript, good structured data. That's been a constant for the last few years, and it's still the case. Structured data, they think they are smart, Google and everything, but they are not that much. So they still need structured data to understand what your page is about, and some details about the page, like pricing and topics, and good speed, obviously. Crawlability, check your Search Console report to know if Google and Bing can crawl your site. Whatever issue they find, your robots.txt is blocking things. Typically your CSS, don't block CSS or JavaScript. They need that. Focus on internal linking, how you link pages inside your website so that each page comfort, so that some pages comfort each other. It's a whole topic in itself. I don't want to get into that, but how you link pages inside your site is really important. And also, and that's difficult to do, if you have lots of content, but some content has no value, just hide it, no index it, hide it. Make it sure that they don't look at it, because it's a waste, and it kind of
What do you mean with no index?
I mean, hide it. You put a no index. Either you excluded. No, you don't do that. Sorry, I was going to say something wrong. You add a meta robots no index to these pages. You don't, and that's just what I was saying, and that's totally wrong. You should not exclude it with a robots.txt. You should put a no index tag. If you want, let's say you have a forum on your site, and the forum is full of, crap content, jokes, bad jokes and everything. It doesn't add, it's your customers, so you have to like them, but that's bad content. That's bad content. You don't want Google to index that. So you no index the whole thing. Simply, you no index the whole thing. I mean, don't no index all forums, because some can be good. I'm just saying if it's not low quality content, you no index it. If you no index it, that is, you add a meta robot, no index for these pages, then you must not exclude your forum with robots.txt. Because if you exclude your forum with robots.txt, then Google is not going to look at your forum pages and it won't see the no index tag. That's a common mistake. If you no index, you no index. That has nothing to do with crawling and robots.txt. If you add a no index tag, they must be able to see that no index tag. Therefore, they must be able to crawl the site, and you should not exclude it from robots.txt. That's the small technical intermediate. Yeah. Remove the contents, that's bad, because it reflects poorly on your website quality. The thing you should not spend time and not obsess about, don't obsess about your website speed. I'm very proud of this phrase, which I made up just like yesterday. Good is good, but better is not better. So have a good speed, be happy about it. Don't spend like days trying to get 100% on whatever tool you're using to measuring that, because first, the tool is not measuring properly. It's not what they use to measure speed anyway. They use your actual visitor's Chrome browser to measure speed. So whatever you want to do for Googlebot is not going to work, and it's not going to help. and in addition, the speed is really a low importance factor. It doesn't matter. It's good for your users, so you need to have a fast website, but don't obsess and spend days and weeks on that. Don't obsess on sitemaps for small websites, because sometimes you need an extension to do that, and a sitemap is not needed for a small site. Like if you have the official documentation for Google says you need a sitemap if your site has more than 500 pages. So if your site has 20 pages, don't bother about sitemap and adding an extension or anything. It serves no purpose at all. Don't spend, my personal pet peeve, don't spend days writing meta description. It's not used. It has no purpose. It's not used for ranking. It may help in the search results, okay, but your meta description in traditional results, they are shown less than 30% of the time. So what you're spending hours writing is not used most of the time, and with AI overview, they are just simply not used at all. So yeah, keep that in mind. Opinion may vary, but I would suggest also to consider other avenues, social media, of course, newsletters, video on YouTube, video on your site, video on YouTube, linking between the two, having a channel. If you can do that, I mean, it doesn't apply to everybody, but if you can do that, that's going to help. Podcasting, so video and podcasting, these are other ways to send your message across and send the information you want to pass to your visitors and customers across. So those are good ways. And then there's one question that you need to ask yourself, and I don't have an answer for that. It's, should you block search engines and people like ChatGPT and company like ChatGPT? Should you block your content from them? Should you allow Gemini from Google and OpenAI to train their model on your content? That's the question you have to ask yourself. There are metadata instructions you can put in your robots.txt to block at least these companies that are respectful of robots.txt, but the big ones are. But you have to put these instructions now, because they are actually training their models now. So if you don't want your content to be used by ChatGPT and Gemini, then now is the time to block it. But most likely you actually want your content to be used for training these models, because some people will keep asking Google for answers, but many people also already consider ChatGPT and Gemini as search engines, which they are not. And so many people are asking ChatGPT about what are the best shoes for running in the snow or whatever, if anybody is willing to run in the snow for some reason. And so maybe you want your content to be used for training these models. But that's different from search engines, but that's a question you want to ask. Like if you have copyrighted content, for instance, maybe you want to block them. Or maybe not, I don't know. That's really up to you. But if you do, then there are things you can add in your robots.txt to block them. And okay, so sort of a summary, conclusion. You should direct efforts to SEO, but I think mostly content-related SEO, increasing and improving the quality and increasing the size of the content you have. Some people say that you should have better content that's maintained over the long time. That's the only thing that can keep you in the game for the SEO that's coming. I would advise that you actually monitor the situation, because the things are changing as we speak. Like I said, what I try to bring here to the table is something that's happening with Google in the US only. So unless you use a VPN, you're not going to see that here, but it's going to happen. Probably in 2024, maybe in 2025. They need to fix the problem. They need to, maybe the Department of Commerce in the US and the trial they are undergoing they are going to be split in two, and there's going to be two Googles. So we don't know that, but unless that happens, there are going to be AI-generated results in Google France and Google Netherlands and all these probably in the next 12 months. So I would encourage you to follow people on Twitter, follow some SEO podcasts. There's a YouTube, Google Office Hours, where they will talk regularly on these things. So I encourage you to just monitor that, because it's where you can find the information. And then after the conclusion, there's a post-conclusion, personal bonus steps. I said, but I like that slide. It's from a year and a half back. But I have a couple of personal advices about SEO, and it's all summarized here. Do nothing rather than do wrong. Don't play with canonical tags if you don't know what they mean and if you're not sure about what they do. Don't play with redirect. Don't play. Like writing good page titles and description is hard, that sort of thing. So better no sitemap than a wrong one, because the sitemap has a purpose, but if you don't do it right, you might end up with the opposite of what it's for. Don't mess too much with the robots.txt. Just keep the Joomla one. It's okay. It's fine. And if you're in doubt, just leave it to them, Google and Bing. They're usually going to be able, like, don't add canonical. Yeah, one thing. If you have pagination, category with pagination, don't put a canonical on page 2, page 3, page 4 that points at the start. You don't want to do that. You have several pages. They need to index it and be able to access it. So that's an example. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do anything wrong, because you can have very quickly very negative effects. And then that's just for reference. I have a few Twitter accounts and things like that you can follow. Sorry, and that's it for me. Do we have time?
Got some time left?
Yeah. Okay.
You went so quick?
You can do the other half.
No, I have to rest. So do you have any question, or? Right.
Go one slide back, because I was too late to take it.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
And can you smile for the picture?
I'm not there. Well, these are just examples. You can probably, I would recommend like these two guys, Search Engine Land. It's not opinionated really, so it just essentially summarizes every news that's happening through into the SEO world. So if you follow this guy, or this is the editor for this, if you follow that, you'll be probably up to speed to what's happening. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.